As you probably do or do not know, I have uploaded a lot of content about Souls games, so in order to round the series off, I decided to make a review of the Souls franchise, because I have nothing better to do, and apparently you have nothing better to watch. So, Souls games, the most back-breaking, unyielding series of games ever created. Known for their difficult bosses, amazing worlds, and little notes other players can leave you to fuck with you, all in all, it is an iconic set of games that almost every gamer has faced at least once. Some of the people that tried playing Souls games got to the first boss, died 14 times, said fuck it and never tried Souls games again, but if for some reason you gave the first boss a 15th try and somehow beaten him by sheer luck, then you're like me, you dread and absolutely love these games all at the same time. Once I started playing these games, I could not stop playing them. Of course it was not all smooth sailing, some bosses screwed me so hard that every once in a while I would check myself if I'm pregnant. The first Souls game I ever tried was Dark Souls 3, oh I can still remember how naive I was, thinking to myself it can't be that bad. Oh boy, how bad it was. I would die every 2 minutes, but then I said to myself, you know what, you can do this. And then when I still couldn't do it, I would just throw my controller at the TV. So it took me a while to beat Dark Souls 3, but after you're done with a Souls game, here's the thing. You forget all the soul-crushing stuff that you had to endure, so you buy yourself another one. Big mistake, because that's how the addiction starts. In my case, that was Demon's Souls Remake, and what a game that was. It was extraordinary, the graphics, the combat, the bosses, and that is when I really began to love Souls games. After that one I decided to start at the beginning, so I got myself Dark Souls 1. The funny thing with that game was that I was actually good at it. Sure, it was still a Souls game, but it was a little saner, and considering when the game was created, Dark Souls 1 truly is a masterpiece. The world was insane to look at and the enemy design was out of this world. The next game was pretty obvious, Dark Souls 2. Here's the thing with Dark Souls 2, for some reason everyone was saying to me, yeah, you know, it's a good game but not even close to the other Souls games, so I was a little scared going into this game because I was afraid it would change my opinion on the Souls franchise, but I don't know what it was, the low expectations going into the game or just me hoping it would be above average. And the funny thing is that it was amazing. I thought it was just amazing. It was just as beautiful to play as any other Souls game. The world was one of the most insane ones, not just out of Souls games, but out of all of the games that I've ever played. And the bosses, oh the bosses, each one of them was special, each one of them was so fun to fight against, and they were all just incredible. So to answer your question that you probably didn't have, yes, I love Dark Souls 2 and I'm not afraid to say it. After finishing Dark Souls 2, I thought I was done because I finished all of them, and then what was this? Elden Ring dropping in a month. I was so hyped. I was so happy because there was no way it was going to be a bad game, and indeed it wasn't. It was amazing. Though to be fair, it wasn't your usual Souls game now, was it? The world was bigger, easier to explore, there was more of a story, but did I enjoy it as much as other Souls games? Now that is a tough question. I don't feel like other Souls games were as talked about as Elden Ring because that game was everywhere, billboards, buses, everyone was talking about it. Now again, I have nothing bad to say about Elden Ring. It was era-defining game that everyone loved, including me. All I'm saying is that it didn't feel exactly like a Souls game, but it was still extraordinary and an absolute masterpiece. Why do I feel like I'm missing something? Oh yeah, Bloodborne, how could I forget? Now, the tone and the theme of Bloodborne is a little different, but by the time I got to Bloodborne I was already a Dark Souls veteran, if you will, so that game didn't stand a chance. No, I'm just kidding, I died a lot. If you have never played any Souls games, the next thing will be for you. Every Souls game is created by a pretty similar pattern. You are some sort of a special warrior, the Ashen one, the Unkindled one, the Maidenless one, even though I get tons of bitches. Every game is a little different, but you can pretty much choose between different classes like Knight, Assassin, Mage, a little bit of everything, and then you start your journey. Sometimes you'll visit a cave or a tomb or a mountaintop, tons of different castles, monster layers. In 5 or 6 games they really covered everything there is to cover. On your journey you of course get to fight all sorts of things, no point in naming all of them because it's all you can think of, but the big thing that all Souls games have in common are the bosses, the more often than not big enemies with a red bar displayed under them, and that red bar is the only thing they have in common because it's all you can think of, from knights to snakes to dragons to like everything. And there are 3 types of bosses. There are those that are just plain easy, really, some of them would only be easier to kill if they committed suicide. Then there are those that require a trick or some secret way to kill them, so just Google it. And of course you have the tough ones, the series defining difficult as hell bosses that are nothing less than a bitch to kill. You are probably all wondering who was the toughest boss in the whole series out of all of the games combined. And it is no easy question. Wars were started over this question. I mean, Reddit wars, but they were still horrible. Personally, I will be honest, the toughest boss for me was the first boss that you face in Dark Souls 3. Hear me out, hear me out. Dark Souls 3 was the first Souls game I ever played, so I was inexperienced. I was a Dark Souls virgin, so it took me 50 tries to kill that fucker. Udix Gundyr is still a name that makes me cry every once in a while. That motherfucker. Now, to pick a favorite Souls game would be like picking your favorite kid. It's impossible. They're all extraordinary. It's a perfect franchise. It does not have one weak part, and as hard as that is to believe, it's true. I know that there are hundreds of other Souls-like games, but I think that these 5 are in a league of their own. Plus, I haven't played a lot of other Souls-like games, but I think that Dark Souls combined with Demon Souls and Elden Ring really is one of a kind. Hopefully we will get to see more Souls games in the future, and I can't wait to see what is next in the Souls universe. Souls games are, in my not so humble opinion, one of the greatest franchises ever created. Honestly, I don't know what some of them were about, and I'm probably not the only one, but we can agree that just being a part of that world felt fantastic. If this is not a 10 out of 10 series, I have no clue what is. So if you're ready to sacrifice the next few years of productivity, I cannot recommend any of these games enough. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoy wasting my life on video games. Thank you guys so much for watching, and see you next time.